perfect action is better than not taking action, whatever that might be, whether you're investing as an LP, joining the Facebook group, you're listening to this podcast and all the other podcasts that are in this series, whatever it is, take action.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
Welcome to the Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where we inspire, impact, and empower.
Progress is impossible if you always do things the way you have always done things.
It's time to dream big. Here's your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where our mission is to inspire, impact, and empower millions of people. I'm your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey, and today we have a very special guest and who is another dreamer. I've been trying to put her into my show for a while, and finally we got a time today. My good friend, fellow fund manager, and the powerhouse, Veena Jetti, all the way from Dallas, and has a very, very inspiring story that we all need to hear and learn. I'm honored and I'm thrilled and excited to have extraordinary person, Veena, in our podcast today. Good morning, and how are you doing?
Hi, Sachin. I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. We're finally getting to record this.
Yes. I'm definitely very, very excited for sure. And I would like to start the podcast today, I guess, with an intro, with a formal bio and all that. But before that, I want to make everyone listening or watching this to how we met initially. I don't know if you remember, Veena, but I think in the Cancun, I saw you for the first time. Yeah. And then I think in less than 5 minutes, I think I can realize the energy and the power of conversation we had. And I was immediately like thinking, she is definitely a different level. And you know, and you have achieved so much things, especially in multifamily space. And people call you as queen of multifamily.
I don't call myself that, but I think maybe other people say that.
Yes, absolutely. And we have recently met in person again in Dallas. We hang out. We have, I've drove in your car, and you have, amazing family, and thank you so much again. Honored to have you in the show.
Likewise.
I would like to introduce Veena as a formally now. Veena Jetti is the founder of the founding partner of the Vive Funds, a unique commercial real estate firm that has specialized in curating conservative opportunity for investors. She has over a decade of real estate experience, including overseeing management of $1 billion in real estate assets. Veena brings a dynamic perspective to targeting, acquiring, managing, and operating assets under best practice combined with cutting-edge technologies. Veena is also a Forbes Council member. She also leads the Facebook Council community called Mastering Multifamily with Veena Jetti. After graduating from University of Illinois at Chicago with a degree in finance at 20 years old, she pursued her passion for real estate. Because of a diverse background, she is also a panelist and speaker of various podcasts, global and conference and radio show. Veena is also passionate about philanthropy, and in 2017, she was one of the only 3 women to receive a Political Woman of the Year award for significant amount of time focus she spent on aiding on grassroots Hurricane Harvey disaster response. Veena, welcome to the show again.
Thank you. I'm excited.
All right, my first question to everyone today is I would like to ask, before that, the topic today, I guess I want to mention everyone, we're going to talk about how to build generational wealth and why it's important, and also multifamily real estate. So first question is, who is Veena Jetti and why she is in this world?
Oh, gosh. Well, you already gave me such a phenomenal intro professionally, so I guess I'll steer personally so that the listeners can hear a little bit more about who I am. So obviously, I'm a multifamily investor. I have one trick. I try to do it really well, and that's the only trick I do. So when I have people that ask me like, oh, do you want to go and launch this other completely unrelated business? I'm like, no, I don't know anything about that. Like, I'll invest in it, I'll buy it with you, but I can't run it because that's not my cup of tea, right? And so professionally, I'm a multifamily investor. Personally, I am a mom. That's my favorite title that I have. I have twin 4.5-year-olds going on 30. They're sassy, and they are everything that my mother wished I would have in a daughter when I was young.
Yeah.
So they give me a run for my money, but I'm also a wife. I have a husband who's a physician as well. He's an anesthesiologist, so he knows nothing about our real estate investments at all and cannot be less interested if he tried.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So thank you. Yeah. So that's I guess I want to hear from you, and definitely thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
My next question, I always wanted to, because I dream big and think different. I wanted to make sure I go back to your childhood, and want to know more about you.
Yeah.
How you're brought up and what was your childhood dream.
Yeah, so I am the daughter of immigrants. My
Okay.
parents came here in 1980. Pretty typical Indian immigrant story, right? They
Yeah.
came with $26 in their pocket, and when they were young, they had to walk uphill in 3 feet of snow both ways to school in India. That's like the typical story.
Yeah.
We've all heard it, right? And
Absolutely.
that's how I grew up. I grew up with a lot of stress, not stress, but there was a lot of pressure on saving and creating a safety net for my parents, right? The pressure wasn't on me. I was a kid, and my parents did a really good job of not burdening my sister and I with financial insecurity or anything like that. So I grew up with very confident parents, but both of my parents are really, really good with money. They were both willing to make the sacrifice to save for the next generation, to build the foundation, to build that nest egg. Both of them were able to retire early because of how much they had saved and scrimped and the sacrifice they had made up front.
Right.
But my mom is a successful real estate investor. She was the one that built my family's real estate portfolio. She
Really?
only
I didn't know that.
she only invested in single family homes. So obviously I've taken that and I've tried to like multiply it a little bit into multifamily and get to that scale. But she really is the one that gave my sister and I the foundation that we've built by funds off of.
So that's amazing. So just going back to your childhood again. So you came in 1980. Looks like, and you were born in India, or
No, I was born here. So I'm
okay.
37. So I was born in 1986. So my dad was doing his PhD in Colorado. And then they had me like the year before he finished defending his thesis. And then we moved to Chicago when I was like almost 2 years old.
Okay. So basically, I think you went to the finance school, I believe, right? So when you started having, in the real estate journey, like
Yeah.
can you share something more about that?
Yeah. So I did not actually think I was going to do real estate. I thought I
Really?
was going to do something totally different. And I remember when I graduated from high school a year early. I was 16 when I graduated and left for college. And I remember, for my parents, it was like the ultimate failure as an Indian child, right? Because I was supposed to be either a doctor or an engineer. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to do finance. And they were like, oh, where did we go wrong? Like, what did we do to deserve this? And I'm like, you act like I just said I was going to like go and live on the street and make my way, like with no degree. I wanted to do business instead. And
Absolutely.
I'll say, my mom is a businesswoman, so she came around pretty quickly. I think that they liked that if it was not going to be medicine or engineering, I was doing a technical degree or a hard skill degree. I actually think I started college with my major being accounting and economics,
Okay.
which I hate all of those things for the most
Yeah.
part. And then I switched to finance once I was in the business school. And
Okay.
I really did it mostly just to get my parents off my back because I was like, okay, I got a degree now. I'm like, I can go and work in business. And I've always had the personality for something more entrepreneurial or sales oriented. Maybe they're both one and the same. I think a lot of times they are, right? And so
Absolutely.
I ended up graduating with my degree in finance. My mom was like, great, you can come work for the family business. We can, go out and grow the company together. And I was like, Mom, I'm an adult and I have a degree. I am not doing anything remotely related to real estate. And she
Right.
was, a good parent and was like, okay, go fly, baby bird, and push me out of the nest. And
Yeah.
I went and worked in corporate real estate, and I worked at some of the largest corporate real estate firms in the
Okay.
world. Learned a lot from my management experience there,
Right.
and then got married in 2012. And my husband and I paid our 2012 taxes as being a married couple for the first time.
Okay.
And we were both W-2 earners. And the IRS is not kind to W-2 earners. They
know.
reward people like me who employ W-2 earners, but they don't reward the W-2 earners themselves. And
Totally.
so we paid taxes. It was like $200,000 or something we paid in taxes.
That's
And
crazy.
it was insane. And I remember calling my mom and just being like, Mom, what happened? Why did we just pay all this money in taxes? I was like, this is like more than most people's salaries in a year.
Absolutely.
And she was like, well, you have to quit your job because you need to be a full-time real estate professional, because it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep, right?
Exactly.
And so I was like, okay, this seems legitimate. And I quit my job and started investing. I started in single family.
Wow.
I accidentally bought a lot of houses that I actually ended up hating because it's so much harder to manage single family homes and so much less rewarding. And that's when I was like, there's got to be a better way. And I discovered the power of multifamily.
Absolutely. We're going to dive into more on that, but I just want to switch the gear a little bit.
Yeah.
I would like to, I know probably the answer for this, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Who and what inspires you to be productive every day?
Oh, every day. I feel like I'm going to give the boring answer, right? Like my kids, my family, which is true, but this actually might surprise you.
Really?
Yeah, because that has always been that's where I go to get centered, right? Like my family is who I rely on. They are my rock. They are my core. They are my focus. They are the thing that when anything becomes overwhelming or things don't go the way I want them to, or I have a really hard day or whatever, my husband and my children are the ones that center me back to
Absolutely.
like some kind of normal space. But my why every day has changed in the last 12 months.
Okay.
And it's changed for a very specific reason. So first, when you're an entrepreneur, right? Like you're going for the income. You need the income to pay your bills. Great.
Absolutely. Okay.
I
Cash
hit that
flow.
milestone. Right. That's like the first milestone.
Yeah.
Then you get to lifestyle, which is, okay, like maybe I want to do something fancy, like fly first class on vacation, right? Like, or maybe I want to buy that bag, or, it's like whatever maybe you want to hire a maid 5 days a week, whatever it is for you, right? It's the lifestyle that you go after next. Once you've reached kind of that lifestyle where you can really dictate there's not many things I can't afford to do. We don't prioritize certain things, but there's not many things that I really want to do that I can't go do. And so then you get to kind of this third level. And that's where I think I've reached in the last year or so. I've not just reached it, but I've recognized that I've reached it. And that's impact, right?
Okay.
So now it is far more rewarding to me to be able to help someone else do their first deal than it is for me to go out and do another deal and make more money. Like that's fine. And it's great. I'm not complaining, but now it's the impact. So now it's the things that money doesn't buy that I chase today, which is, oh my gosh, this changed my life. Thank you for setting my child up with a college fund by helping me invest into real estate. Thank you for opening my eyes that this is even a possibility for me. My daughters watch all of your podcasts because they need to see a woman in this space that looks like them, right? So those are the things that money doesn't buy, those things, those testimonials and the impact that you can have on so many other lives. So now my why is I've always wanted to leave a legacy for my children. Before, I thought that legacy was just a financial legacy. And as I get older and maybe a little wiser, I don't know how much wiser, but a little wiser.
Absolutely.
I realized that that's not actually the legacy I want to leave my children. I don't want to leave them a trust fund. It's fine if they have enough to do something, right, and go out and be
Right.
great on their own. But I want to teach them the skills that they can go out and make their own way. I don't want them to rely on my husband and I for money.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's my legacy that I want to leave behind is
Mm-hmm.
when I'm no longer here and someone is talking to my daughters that they say, your mom changed the whole trajectory of our family. That's
Mm-hmm.
the legacy I want to leave for them. And
Mm-hmm.
that is something that I now strive for. It's almost like a drug when you help the first person that you ever help. And you know
Yeah.
this as a doctor, right? Like
Yeah,
when you
absolutely.
help someone and they say, you've changed my life or thank you for that. That is like the most intoxicating drug you can ever have. And you kind of chase that, I think, forever, maybe.
No, no, it's absolutely true, and it's so rewarding. And I like the your last part you said about impact. That's the reason. One of my goal is to
Yeah.
impact, inspire, empower people, and that's why we're having this conversation.
Yes.
And
Very aligned in
one
that way.
absolutely one thing I think I really wanted everyone listening to this podcast or watching this, because guess what? We came with nothing
Yeah,
and in this world, and we're gonna go with nothing, you
exactly.
know. And what only thing we can keep is what we give. And
Yep.
I really appreciate what you're giving to your knowledge and your everything to people, and it's definitely inspiring.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. The next question regarding we all talk about success and like we have achieved so much in our life, but
Yeah.
really we talk about our challenges and
Yes.
our failures. And I want to hear from you if there is any of those experience.
If
How
there
we.
are, there are so many. You don't have enough airtime for me to go through all of them.
Absolutely, but a couple of those if you can share so that
Yeah.
people knows everyone has.
Yeah, so I'll speak first to maybe the parents and or women in
Sure.
listening to this, right? Because one major challenge that I still face today and have faced pretty much every day since my daughters were born is there's a lot of guilt that comes with going out and growing a business and building a brand because the reality is, right? I get asked all the time, how do you balance it all? I can't. I'm only one
Hmm.
person. I rely on a lot of people to help make all of these wheels go round. And so the reality is when I'm with my children, someone else is taking care of my business. And when I'm taking care of my business and I'm traveling or I'm speaking or I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing, someone else
Sure.
is taking care of my children. It's not possible for me to be in multiple places at once, even though my heart is with my girls. I am out in the world, right? And I'm
Absolutely.
growing things, and that's why impact matters so much.
Hmm.
So that's a big challenge that I still face today. I don't know if you ever overcome it or not. Another one that I'll share that I think a lot of people are surprised by when I tell them this
Hmm.
is I have a lot of imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And it is always challenging to kind of get over the mindset of the imposter syndrome. But
Hmm.
I speak about it because what I've realized is there are so many people that suffer. Probably you even suffer from imposter syndrome in some capacity,
Absolutely. Yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
like when someone says it and is brave enough to say it first, then it's like, okay, me too. Thank you for saying that because now I feel like I can be authentic. And I think when
Yes,
you address imposter syndrome, it's like kind of like acknowledging the elephant in the room, and then you can like kind of push it out of the way and keep doing the thing you need to focus on, having
absolutely.
acknowledged it. Um, so that, that's been a definite ongoing struggle and growth moments that I have pretty much daily when it relates to imposter syndrome. And
Hmm.
I think in general, in terms of real estate right now, right?
Yeah,
This is a tough market. It is a very difficult environment.
absolutely.
We're seeing a lot of assets that are going completely belly up. We
Hmm.
right before this, we talked a little bit about a portfolio in Houston
Hmm.
that and everyone's heard of this Apple's Way portfolio because it was like the largest multifamily default in a very long time.
Right.
And it makes investors scared. And raising capital in this environment is very tough. Getting deals that pencil with interest rates where they are, very tough. Being able, we're not in the heyday of the bull market that we had been in for so many years that so many people got used to. And it's unfortunate because a lot of investors are going to lose money in this moment. And, it's hard to see any investors, even though they're not my investors, I still care that they are experiencing a hardship in this field because it makes them nervous to invest. Even though I might run things differently or I might have the deal of the century, they're going to be nervous to invest with me because of someone else that has lost their money. In that portfolio, there was a lot of nuance to it. It wasn't just like real estate gone bad. There's a lot of fraud allegations that are being navigated and whatnot. So we don't really know the whole story yet. But one of the things we do know is their interest rate adjusted from 3.5% to 8% in less than 12 months.
Wow.
There was no rate cap. So how can you possibly sustain an 8% interest rate and still cap? I mean, it was inevitable. And then, there was mismanagement issues that looked like happened. And I don't know personally because I was not involved in it. This is what I've read. But, occupancy dropped well below 90%, which is what we typically look for. Maybe into the 80s is okay if there's a reposition. But there were a lot of things that made it a big problem that they couldn't get out from under. But it doesn't matter for people like you and I. Now investors are scared. Those investors are probably never investing ever again.
You're listening to the Dream Big and Think Different podcast with Dr. Sachin Maskey. Be sure to stop by sachinmaskeymd.com to download a free copy of Dr. Maskey's book.
Thank you for sharing your challenges, and definitely we do have challenges, and every time I think we move forward with challenges. I think there's always opportunity, and there's real estate. And the good news is it's a long-term investment.
Yes, and real estate always goes up. If you look at real estate historically, and you look at it over long periods of time, it does not go down. It continuously increases. So the one thing that we know, right, is it's not timing the market. It's not waiting till you're at the bottom or the top or in the middle to deploy a certain amount of capital or strategies. What really matters is how much time you spend in the market. Because over a long period of time, your value will increase.
Absolutely. And guess what? The land is limited, right? So we are definitely in the right space. So
they're not making any more.
Anymore. So I would like to dive into your next favorite topic about how to build generational wealth and why it is important. If you can share a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah. I think I have a little bit of a change of heart on this.
Really?
I used to think it was really important that my children and their children and their children and their children were all taken care of. And I still feel that way. I still feel like they can go out. My children can now go out and do anything that they want to do, and they can fail at anything that they want to fail at because they have a safety net that we have built for them. Right. Now, the reason I say I have a slight change of heart than where I was even like a year or two ago is because that is not the most important thing I want to pass on to my children. The most important thing I want to pass on to them is to be a kind and productive member of society, but also to have their own passion and their own pursuits and their own resilience and their own grit. So it's like, have you heard that saying where it's like soft times make hard men make soft times make soft men, and soft, it's like this whole, I don't know what the actual saying is. And I'm actually really bad at these proverbs, so no one should ever listen to me when I do that. But basically it's saying like, I grew up without as much as my children are growing up with. And so now I've worked so hard to make sure that they could have all the things that maybe I wanted. I never went without. And I had a lot of things that many children did not have. But I wanted like a bigger lifestyle and a better lifestyle, right? Like I'm very extra, and I want to be able to give my kids whatever I want to give them, not whatever they want, but whatever I choose to give them. And so initially that was a thing for me. And then it became Okay, well, now I want to give them everything, especially the things like I didn't have, but I don't want them to take advantage of it and then feel like
Yep.
they can just be lazy. And so it's important to build generational wealth because of the options it gives you and your future heirs. It's not
Mm-hmm.
important to build it so that you can give your children everything and they can go and do nothing. That's not my
Absolutely.
goal.
I think we should give access to that wealth instead of just giving them, right? That's
Absolutely.
what my philosophy is, so that
Absolutely.
they can, in case of emergency or college fund, whatever they want to do,
Yeah.
business, and then there'll be more access to the fund,
Yeah,
So,
like my kids had a lemonade business last year. They started their own little lemonade stand.
really?
Yeah, and mainly because I wanted them to get used to handling real dollars because
Oh, yeah.
everything is cashless now, and they don't get it. Like, I'm not going to give them an allowance. Like, that's not.
Right.
It's not something I want to do with my children. And so they
Hmm.
started a lemonade business, and like I was their first investor. I gave them $25, and I didn't give it to them. I loaned it to them, and
Absolutely.
we agreed that they would pay me back $30. So it was actually a really great ROI for me. I made 20% on a very short term loan.
Yes.
And, they paid me back. And then they each had $6 after that. And we went to the bank and they deposited it and filled out
Yeah.
the deposit slip. So, those are the things I really want to give them. And quite frankly, if I haven't built wealth, how could I teach them how to do that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I like the what you said in a few minutes ago. But I guess what I mean, our children. I think the values we're gonna provide, like being kind, is definitely an
Yeah.
important thing. Because
Yeah.
it's easy to be. God has given us a lot of talents, right? It's
Yeah.
given, right?
Yeah.
And but I think the choices we make, like being kind, is a choice, right? And
Absolutely.
I've heard this from Jeff Bezos, but I really like what he said in one
Oh,
of the
did he
speech.
say the same thing? Is Jeff Bezos
Yeah.
copying me? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
know.
but that's amazing. That's amazing values.
Yeah.
So now, Veena, I would like to go on the real estate. So
Yeah.
first of all, you mentioned already, but I want to know again how we got started. Why
Yeah.
multifamily? Why is this the best asset class?
Yeah. So I initially started in single family, and I remember very clearly there was a week where I bought 5 houses in one week.
One week.
And
Wow.
yeah, I had two thoughts. My first thought was, this is so not scalable. There is no way, even if I could keep up this rate of finding good deals, I can't buy 10,000 single family homes.
Yeah,
It would take
it's
me,
impossible.
yeah. I mean, I hate to say impossible because I feel like then someone's going to go and do it and we're like, oh, see. But it would have been very challenging and very tough to do without significant scale.
Absolutely.
But the second and more important thought was, I really hate this. I
Mm-hmm.
hate everything about managing single family homes. I hated taking resident calls. I hated arranging repairs. I hated trying to collect rent, and I'd have to like do this awkward thing on the first of the month where I'd be like, hey, rent is due, and then listen to all the reasons they can't pay their rent. And I'm a raging empath. So it would be
Yep.
very hard for me to hear like little Timmy needs braces and we got into a car accident, like whatever, all the world of excuses that people that need
Yep.
to pay rent give you. And I didn't want to answer
Mm-hmm.
the phone in the middle of the night. I don't get paid to take call. Like my husband gets paid to take call. I don't get paid to take call. I'm not interested in you calling me at 2 a.m. because your
Absolutely.
your toilet is leaking. Like, no. So then I kind of set out and I was like, all right, there's got to be a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what that better way was. I just knew there had to be a better way. But what I
Mm-hmm.
love about residential real estate is this is somebody's home. You get an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to really profoundly impact
Right.
their life by creating a safe and hopefully renovated or nice or clean environment for them to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where people make their memories. And
Mm-hmm.
that I love that side of it. I love that human element of
Oh, yeah.
residential real estate.
Sure.
Enter multifamily, where you get both the residential side with the scale of commercial. And
Mm-hmm.
so why it is the best asset class. It's not even that I think
Sure.
it is, it just is. Like mathematically, there's something called a Sharpe ratio.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wrote a Forbes article about this, and it's called, I
Okay.
think, all about the Sharpe ratio.
Okay.
And what the Sharpe ratio is is it's a mathematical equation which calculates the amount of reward that you get from investing in a particular asset class versus the potential risk, comparative to the potential risk. So as an example, if you invest into something like cryptocurrency, which is highly speculative, but you could also be like a cajillionaire if you invested at the right time, right? If you bought Bitcoin like 15 years ago and you wait 50 years, well, I don't know. But if you sold it like in the last few years, you probably made a few $1 million, right? It was like a massive outsized asymmetrical return.
Absolutely.
So you have that. And then you look at it, okay, yes, I'm going to make a lot of money, but I'm going to take on a lot of risk. So now when you look at the Sharpe ratio of all asset classes in the last like 30 years, multifamily has the highest Sharpe ratio because it gives you the most potential reward relative to the least amount of risk you could take for that same reward. So I'm totally unbiased when I say that multifamily is the best asset class, but it's scalable, it's tax efficient, it's recession proof. There have been very few defaults in multifamily. We hear about them because they're sensationalized. But if you heard about every single family home that foreclosed, you would just, that's all you would be reading day in and day out, right? But like multifamily, it doesn't happen as often. So when it does happen, it's a big deal. And it's not like $100,000 loan. It's like $100 million loan. So it has that challenge associated with it in that people just don't hear about defaults very much in the single family space. So it feels like more in the multifamily space, but it's not. In 2008, there were significantly fewer. I think it was less than, I think it was like 1.8 or 1.9% multifamily default.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a basic human need, right? We call it roti, kapda, and makan in Hindi, and is one of the thing we need is everything to live inside, right?
Exactly.
Shelter is important. So I think multifamily is definitely hands down as a bread and butter. I think
I agree, Sachin. It's the best.
And you're in the right space. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to also you can share. I think somewhere I was reading in your bio or somewhere. But what would be the top 3 mistakes that the new investor will make, and how to avoid them?
Yeah. So I'll say passive investors, the biggest mistake that they make is they don't vet the sponsor. They look at the deal and this is actually a problem. So about 70% of our investors are physicians or physician families.
Sure.
Most investors, this is a behavior I've noticed amongst physician families or medical families, is they get kind of into a herd mentality. So what happens is, my friend invested, so I invested.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, what? Like, and I have a lot of investors like that will bring, or even friends that'll bring me deals that they've invested in that are not my deals, someone else's deals. And they'll be like, Veena, they're capital calling me. What do I do? And I'm like, tell me about the deal. And they're like, I don't know. It's a multifamily.
Seriously?
Yeah. They're like, it's a multifamily in Tennessee. And I'm like, okay, can you say more things about it? Because inherently, multifamily in Tennessee is probably like a fairly decent bet, depending on how they bought it, what the strategy is, who's operating it. They're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I'm like, how many units? I don't know. Okay. Who's the operator? This guy. How do you know the guy? He's a friend of my partner who invested into it. And I'm like, okay, well, what made you decide that this was a good investment in the beginning? My friend invested, my business partner invested, my the other doctors were all invested in it. And so this is something that a lot of passive investors fall into this trap, especially physicians. So I would say vet the sponsor in the deal up front. I've had people that are like my sister's close friends who are physicians invest with these other operators. Now they're facing capital calls. Now some of them are facing a full loss of their principal. And it wasn't a multifamily deal, but they came to us and they were like, I wish we would have just invested with you instead, because I don't think that I would be going through all this stuff and I don't even know what I'm investing in. I'm like, look, it's not a good reason to invest with us, right? Like you still should vet us and you still need to know what you're investing in and understand it. So I think that's the biggest mistake. For active investors, people that are actively in the space, the biggest mistake I made is I have never paid for a mentorship or a program or a VIP ticket ever. I've never once paid for that. And I thought I was like so smart because I was like, well, I don't really need to pay for that to learn about NOI. I can Google that for free. And I was right. I could Google it for free, and I did Google it for free. Now I've earned my way into those rooms, right? Like I have done the work to get to a certain level where I am now invited into those rooms because now I have value to add to those rooms.
Absolutely.
And I now get paid to be in those rooms sometimes, right? And what I realize is this is the single biggest mistake I've ever made in my career because it's left tens of millions of dollars on the table. And it's not because of the information. You still can Google what NOI means. I do lots of free education on
Yes, absolutely.
content of like what this means, what that means, strategies, why we like this, right? You can get all of that for free.
Yeah.
That's not what you should pay for. What you're paying for, and you know this because you and I met in one of these rooms, right?
Absolutely.
What you're paying for is a mindset. It is being around people who are equally invested in themselves, who want to do better, who want to elevate their business. They've done the painful thing of cutting a check that they are now more incentivized to go and make value and create value from what they're learning and absorbing there. Your partners are in those rooms. Your investors are in those rooms. Your peers and colleagues are in those rooms. The people who you can call when you have something going wrong in a deal and be like, hey, who's in your Rolodex to solve this? Those are the people that are in those rooms. And
Absolutely.
I never realized that until I was in those rooms because I earned my way there. If I had access to those rooms 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I think I would have easily been where I am today years ago. And I know I would have been in a better position than I am today. And I'm not complaining about where I am. I'm just saying it's the biggest mistake I made.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. I totally agree. And in my life too, mastermind is something I have learned, and I've been to a lot of mastermind. Bridger is one of them. We mentioned about it. And then I met my business partner, Craig, for example, is another mastermind.
Yeah.
So mastermind and the mentorship is definitely key.
It is.
And thank you for sharing that.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would like to quickly ask you this question. I know we're running out of time here, but some of the thing I'm very fascinated for you is I say that you're a powerful person because and one of the thing I'm listening today actually, how do you raise like $50 million in less than 8 weeks? Like, it's amazing to briefly hear about the story about that,
Yes, it is definitely not for the faint of heart. It is something that is a challenge, and it's not something I could have done 10 years ago. So there have been a lot of stepping stones that have gotten me there, right? It's not something I just started out with. Now, what I will say is building processes and systems is key. But this is a relationship business. I keep very tight relationships with my investors and with my LP partners because they're the lifeblood of our business. So having integrity with how you handle investors is really important. I always say, deliver good news fast and bad news faster. And it's hard to do that, right? Like when COVID hit and we didn't know what was going to happen, it felt very destabilizing for me. But being able to reach out to investors and say, hey guys, I don't know what this means because I don't have anywhere to go to get guidance on a global pandemic. And I'm getting access to, firsthand information because my husband's, a frontline physician. But I don't know what this means for us. But what I do promise you is I will do everything in my power to make sure your investment is continuing to work for you and is protected. And I will do whatever I can to make sure we're continuing to maximize returns. And I mean, obviously Crystal Ball didn't tell me we were in like the best days of our real estate investments, but it was something that was a challenge and it was bad news, which I think a lot of investors did not. I don't even think I handled it correctly because I still waited, and I wish I wouldn't have. I waited a few weeks before communicating because I didn't know what to communicate. Today, I would go back and I would communicate that to investors basically same day there would have been communication from me.
Okay.
So I think those are all like small baby steps. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into it, but those are things that people can do today, whether you're trying to raise 50 million or $1 million, those principles stay the same.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. I mean, I'm really honored to hear from you because you have done this already, right? So that's amazing.
Yep, one dollar at a time.
Yes, yes. So I think Facebook community. I think you're very active on those.
Yeah.
And briefly, if you can mention about that multifamily mastering with Veena Jetti, how
Yeah,
people can involve.
a free Facebook community. It's called Mastering Multifamily with Veena Jetti. You just answer the questions and you can join. And we do different fun things in there. We do like giveaways and a lot of education, but your peers are in there. And there's a lot of active members in the group that are not me. So people that are just starting out all the way to people who have done hundreds of millions of dollars in deals. It's like for anybody who wants to get to that next level and needs that partnership to do so.
Sure, sure. So listen, everybody, it's free. Join to the Facebook community. It's a powerful, and again, appreciate for whatever you have done. Regarding, I guess it's always dream big and think different. I think you already mentioned that, but what is your dream now?
Right now, so I put a very specific goal out there, which is I want to impact 10,000 people.
Okay.
I have not reached that goal yet. I'm more than 50% there. I'm almost 70% there, but I think I need to keep pushing a little more to get to the 10,000. And I also am really looking to build stronger partnerships with the most active members in the group. And we just bought a hotel in Puerto Rico a couple months ago together.
You did?
Yeah. So I bought it with the 10 most active members of the group that were in Puerto Rico with me. We were there. We saw an opportunity. We seized it. And that's why it's so important to be in the right rooms because they were there in person. And so we bought it together. And so that is, I want to do more deals like that. And I want to partner with more people that are looking to kind of take that first step forward. So that's kind of my goal for right now.
That's amazing goal, and congratulations about that one. And also you have in fact a 70% of your goal. That's amazing.
So far, yes.
So my next question, so the second last question for today, what is I mean, you already told me, but I want to hear again. What is the biggest win in your life so far, and how you define success?
Biggest win in my life so far is definitely having a happy and healthy family. And what you asked me, what is success?
How do you define success to you?
Success for me is feeling content and happy, and my family and my loved ones also having, health, wealth, and happiness.
Sure. That's amazing. And that's true with me also, being content and be happy what you have, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My last question for today for Veena is, we already talked about a lot of things. Where can people find you? And one thing before you leave, what are your words of wisdom for our listener?
Yeah, so my words of wisdom are take action. Imperfect action is better than not taking action, whatever that might be, whether you're investing as an LP, you are joining the Facebook group, you're listening to this podcast and all the other podcasts that are in this series, whatever it is, take action.
Absolutely.
That's number one. And then as far as finding me, like I said, I hang out on my Facebook community way more than anybody who runs a business should ever do it, but I love it. It sets my soul on fire. And I'm also, on Instagram and TikTok and everywhere as Veena Jetti, VEENAJETTI.
Just Google it.
Yeah, just Google, it'll come up. And if you're looking at our investments, then vivefunds.com, VIVEFUNDS.com.
It's amazing. So I guess I'm very, again, honored. And thank you so much, Veena, for your time and sharing all the knowledge and words of wisdom. I was keep on writing in my notes, actually. And again, whoever is listening and watching, I would appreciate if you can like, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. It's been amazing. And thank you so much for your time and have a nice day.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Dream Big and Think Different. We hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss any gold nuggets. And we'd appreciate it if you could rate and leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, and other platforms. Until next time.